Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Swatch and Learn. Thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Stephanie Sheridan, and I will be your host, along with Lisa Ruble, the editor of the Fat Quarterly. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
Also joining us today are Lisa Lund and Sarah Krock-Landrum. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
So the Fat Quarterly has been in print for over 25 years as a way to share our amazing fabrics directly with you, the consumer. We have lots of fun and exciting things to share with you today, so let's get started. So this issue of the Fat Quarterly features Montgomery Mountain Charm by Belle of Seam Sew Me. It is a heartfelt tribute to the natural beauty and quiet warmth of Montgomery County, Arkansas, where Belle grew up. Unfortunately, Belle is not able to join us today, but she has sent in a video for us to share with you about the fabrics.
Hi, I'm Belle from Seam Sew Me, and I'm so excited to share with you my next fabric collection with Benartex called Always. Always is a timeless and romantic collection that celebrates love in all of its beautiful stages. Unique metallic inks represent the exhilarating spark of a new love, lovely florals represent the comfort of a love that grows deeper with time, and delicate patterns inspire the quiet strength of a love that endures through every season of life. This collection was born from the deeply rooted love that I share with my sweet husband. Through these prints, you'll find soft florals, pearlescent inks, whispered words of affection, and modern wedding motifs that reflect celebration, connection, tenderness, and the warm glow of being chosen again and again. These fabrics are perfect for quilts, anniversary gifts, bridal heirlooms, heartfelt decor, and one-of-a-kind garments such as dresses and skirts. The beauty of Always is its versatility. When you remove the wedding novelty prints, the collection becomes a graceful blend of florals and textures that flow far beyond celebrations, perfect for projects any time of the year that call for something soft, delicate, and timeless. Because in the end, Always is more than fabric. It's love forever unfolding. Let's begin with the heart of the collection, Wedding Blooms. This romantic floral was inspired by the peonies that were part of my own wedding bouquet. Peonies have always felt especially meaningful to me with their soft layered petals, timeless beauty, and intoxicating aroma. Designing this print felt like preserving a little piece of that special day in fabric. Wedding Blooms brings a sense of romance and elegance to the entire collection and comes in 3 beautiful colorways, in which 2 are also available as wide backs. Next, we have Love Language, the panel print in the collection. This panel is filled with meaningful phrases and sweet expressions of love, little reminders of the promises and words that matter most. Each square feels like a tiny love note stitched into the fabric, making it perfect for fussy cutting quilt blocks, pillows, and heartfelt keepsakes. Celebrate Us captures the joy and the excitement of seeing a beautiful and tasty wedding cake. With playful motifs and layered elements, it reflects the happiness of 2 lives coming together and a new chapter beginning. Lover's Lane is a charming heart stripe that runs along the length of the fabric. This print was inspired by the day-date afternoon drives and walks that we take together. The gentle rhythm of the hearts gives this print a soft romantic movement, making it ideal for borders, sashing, or even a beautiful quilt binding. It comes in 2 colorways. Kissed Pearls adds a delicate elegance to the collection. Inspired by classic pearl jewelry worn on my wedding day, this print brings shimmering texture and refinement while pairing beautifully with the florals. It also comes in 2 colorways. Sweet Nothings is inspired by those quiet little phrases shared between 2 people in love. The words may be small, but they carry so much meaning. Its delicate design adds a gentle romantic layer to the collection, and it also comes in 2 colorways. Forever Lace brings the timeless beauty of lace into the fabric story. Inspired by the lace in my wedding dress, lace has long been part of wedding traditions, symbolizing the elegance, heritage, and lasting love. This print creates a soft, graceful backdrop for quilts and garment projects. Bliss is a subtle blender that adds softness and movement throughout the collection. Its delicate shimmering pattern provides balance to the more detailed prints while maintaining the romantic feel that carries across the entire line. Excellent for garment projects, This unicorn print of the collection stands on its own in one beautiful colorway. Champagne Bubbles creates the joyful moments that accompany love and commitment. Just like the sparkle and zest of fresh champagne, this print brings energy, celebration, and a touch of playful charm. Heartfelt captures scattered hearts that drift gently across the fabric like little reminders of love. It's sweet and simple and helps tie together the emotional theme of the entire collection. Love Notes is filled with handwritten words and phrases of affection. It feels like pages from a collection of love letters, capturing the emotion, tenderness, and memories that come with words of affirmation as a love language. And finally, Bridal Confetti, a playful watercolor floral print that captures the joyful moment when celebration fills the air. It's lighthearted, festive, and the perfect finishing touch to the collection. And to make creating with this collection even more versatile, Always pairs beautifully with colors from my curated Bliss-Filled Solids collection. These coordinating solids include Peach Mist, Coraline, Terra Rose, Dew, Harbor, Lagoon, and Teal Dusk, each one chosen to blend effortlessly with the prints in this collection to give quilters and garment sewers even more creative possibilities. I'm also releasing 2 quilt patterns alongside this fabric line. The first pattern is a free pattern called Always, Always, named after something my husband and I say to one another often. I love you always, in all ways. This quilt finishes at 72 by 72 inches, and the entire quilt top, including scrappy binding, can be made with just one 19 fat quarter bundle of this collection. And you also have the option to incorporate the love language panel into the quilt by fussy cutting the squares that feature special wedding day sayings, adding an extra layer of meaning to the finished piece. The second pattern I'm releasing is a paid pattern called Love Spun. This design features a unique double-pointed Dresden block. By combining the light and the dark prints in the collection, it creates beautiful Dresden plates that pop over a secondary pieced background with optional applique heart centers. Both quilts were designed to showcase the fabrics in Always while giving quilters creative ways to celebrate love through their stitching. The Always collection was created to celebrate the beautiful gift of love in all of its forms, from weddings and anniversaries to quiet everyday moments that make a relationship strong. Whether you're creating a quilt to mark a special milestone, a meaningful gift for someone you love, bridesmaids or bridal gifts, unique stylish garments, or something beautiful for your home, these fabrics were designed to wrap every project in warmth, emotion, and connection. Because love isn't just a moment. It's a story that grows, deepens, and continues to unfold over time. And with Always, that story can be stitched into every quilt, every project, and every memory you create. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, quilty friends, make lovely things.
Okay, so that was from Belle, and those are all of the fabrics. So she did show you one of the quilts in that little video, the free pattern quilt, but let's take a quick peek at some of the other patterns that Belle created with this collection. All right, so here are the projects. And another quick view of the pattern, or the fabrics. This is Belle's booth last year at Fall Quilt Market. The free pattern called Montgomery Stars. It is available now on Belle's website, and she does have video tutorials available as well. Montgomery Ribbon is a more modern looking quilt using the stitch and flip method. She recolored her Dueling Diamonds pattern in the Blissfield 16 fat quarter bundle of Superior Solids, which gives it a really modern look. And then she also has some other patterns colored up. You can find all of these on the Montgomery page on our website, and we'll pop the link into the chat for that. And she also had some fun garments created. There's a pattern for a coat, an apron, a dress, and a skirt. And here you can see those together. The Hestia apron is absolutely adorable with all those ruffles. It is oh so Belle. Wouldn't you agree, Lisa? She also has a cute dress, the Maria dress from Charm Patterns by Gertie, which is a beautiful, beautiful dress. And then, of course, a tote bag to carry while you're wearing the dress. Belle did that at QuiltCon, I believe. And some fun bags. A great weekender duffel. And then she's been playing with some other items as well. Um, just making some beautiful small items from her fabrics. So those are Belle's projects and projects from other designers that fell in love with Belle's fabrics. So now that we've talked about the fabrics, let's talk about some of the projects that you'll find in the Fat Quarterly. Lisa Ruble created the most adorable project with the Montgomery collection, a trio of quilted pot covers. Lisa, can you tell us a little more about them and give us some tips and tricks on making them?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Ruble from Quilty Zest, and I'm the editor of the Fat Quarterly, which means that I get to play with all of the fabric swatches that come out in each issue. And I had a lot of fun playing with Belle's swatches because this was for our spring issue, and the fabrics are so springy, summery even, and just full of all kinds of planty inspiration. So I decided to make these little holders for plant pots. I keep calling them pot holders, and then I think of what belongs in the kitchen. But I've got the 3 little pots right here that I made. And what I did when I designed them is I wanted to make sure that they would fit a plant really nicely. So this is a 4-inch terracotta pot. It's one of the ones that you can buy at any garden center. And you can even fit in one of the little clear plastic liners from the bottom that will protect your pot. So if you put the liner in first and then tuck the pot in, and then you can do the pot one of 2 ways. You can see right now I've got it with the edge unfolded. And if I fold it down, then just like in the magazine where you get that nice little cuff along the top. And so I really like to have both of those options with this because it looks great with this the cuff showing and it being a little bit taller depending on how tall your plants are, or folding it over to get a little bit more thickness at the top. And I wanted to show you. So when I bought these plants for this project, I went to my local garden center and I was picking plants not for what I wanted for my garden or for what I thought might last the longest, but more so what would look pretty together. So I have this jade plant, this plant, which I don't actually know the name of, and here is the sad third plant. And it looked beautiful for the photo shoot, but I do not have a green thumb, so this guy needs to be replaced. So I want to talk a little bit about color schemes. This was the sample that I made before I made the ones for this actual project, because when I design quilts on my computer, I can design 2D things very easily and know how they'll turn out. And 3D is a little bit different. So when I was playing around with this idea, I wanted to see if I was going to do a cuff of solid fabric at the bottom or at the top. And you can see I just used one fabric here for the middle, but I could kind of see what it would look like if I folded it over and then I would have the cuff at the top and at the bottom. And I realized that I liked it better at the top and having more of the stripe showing. So when you are doing a 3D project, it's always nice to make a little practice piece first where you can audition your fabric placement and how you want it to go together before you cut into the good stuff. So when I did these pot holders, I divided the fabric into 3 different color groupings rather than doing them scrappy, because I loved the teal is my color of choice, but I loved the teal, the gold, and then sort of the coral color as well. And I thought that I could create a really different look with this fabric from compared to what Belle had done with her projects by choosing one color at a time and working with that. And you'll see for the 3 pots, I used 3 different prints for the top edge. And that's also what's on the bottom and on the inside. And I did that because I think when you have 3 together, it's more interesting to have different motifs, different patterns showing than doing them all with the same one. The other thing I wanted to show you about this is what I used inside to make them stand up. You'll see they stand up all by themselves and they don't flop over. They've got really nice body to them. And this is a product, I took it out of the plastic bag because the bag was super noisy for this presentation, but it's from Thermoweb and it's called Heat and Bond Versafoam Fusible. And it is a brand new product that they have. It's a, if I unfold it a bit, you can see a thicker foam, and it comes in one-sided fusible and double-sided fusible. And it's got so much nice body that really made these stand up on their own. So I've made these before with interfacing, I've made them with batting, and I have to say I like them best with this foam because it makes them a little bit softer, and they also don't droop at all, and they stand up really nicely around the pots. One other thing I wanted to show you from looking at this pot, and part of why I did the same color for my top edge and for my lining, is when you're sewing fabrics together along an edge like this, and then you fold it over, a lot of times you can see the fabric that's on the back side, depending on where that seam lands. But by using the same fabric, both on the outside and the inside, you can see up at the seam at this top edge. I've got the same fabric there, so it blends in nicely. You don't have to worry about one of the fabrics that's overlapping into where you don't want to be seeing it, and you just see that same outside fabric all the way around. And then the last thing that I wanted to show you, and I talk about this in the pattern, but I want to show you why it works so well, is how you pin pieces when you're sewing a round piece to basically a little loop like this. And because similar to when you're sewing the border on a quilt and you want to pin the borders to pin the quilt to match the length of your border and then ease it to fit so that everything is the right size, we're going to use that same technique here. So these are lining pieces because it's easier to show. And so what I did is I took my circle and I folded it in half in both directions and I pressed it. So you can kind of see, I think it's easier to see on the back. Yep, you can see the different fold lines. That divides it into quadrants. And then with my loop here, I did the same thing where I folded it in half. So I've got the seam at one end and then pressed it. So I end up with a marked line there. And then I matched those 2 lines in the middle, which gave me 2 more sort of halves or quarters that I pressed. And so now I've got the same markings on both. And by aligning those folded marks as I pin these 2 layers together, it means that I won't end up with any puckers because I'm spreading out how the pieces of fabric go together. And sometimes when you're sewing with curves, with circles, that can be a little tricky. So by spacing out this pinning, you know that in each quadrant, you just have to match the fabric between those pins. And it's a lot easier to ease the fabric in this short area than trying to fit it all the way around and getting to the end and realizing that you have kind of a bubble like that. So by folding each of those pieces and then aligning those folds, it's much easier to sew these together and come up with a really professional looking finish so that both your liner and your outer pot don't have any puckers in them. So those are a couple tips for how to make these cute little pot holders that are in your issue. I hope that you enjoy making them as well and that you have a little more luck with the plants that you put in them than I did. Although if plants are not your thing, these also work really nicely as little storage buckets. You can have them in your sewing room, keep binding clips in them, fabric scraps, threads, anything, and you don't have to worry about keeping those things alive like you do a plant. Back to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Lisa. So I love that tip about pinning the curves and folding to match everything. And um, I'm right there with you. I can keep outdoor plants alive really well. I bring a plant indoors and it is the kiss of death for that poor thing every time.
Having to remember to water things is tricky.
Absolutely. All right, so our next guest is one of our 2026 social stars, and she is also a very well-known pattern designer. Lisa Lund has a few things to share with us today. Her Out of Hibernation block featured in the Block Remix article. You can see that article on page 3. And also an adorable vest that she made from the Montgomery collection. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Hi, thank you. I'm happy to be here. And now I want to make some pot holders. Those are so cute. So I'm Lisa Lund from Shadow Valley Quilts. And like she said, I was asked to remix the bear claw block. And that was super fun to be able to do that. I thought since it was for the spring issue, I thought about, bears in the spring are coming out of hibernation. And so I kind of decided to put a spring flower spin on the the bear paw block. So I thought of crocuses coming out in the springtime, and I remixed the bear paw block to have a spring flower feel. Just added some curves and kind of made a spring flower coming out of hibernation, the early crocuses in the spring, and changed up some of the angles. I used the bright kaleidoscope collection. I love the really bright happy prints that kind of gave this a real springtime feel. So that was a really fun challenge to work on this block remix for the Fat Quarterly. So also, I'm here to talk about this vest that I'm wearing my vest. So I'll show you what it looks like. I made this with Bell's Montgomery Mountain Charm fabrics because I wanted a vest to wear to QuiltCon. And I was doing a demo on this star here. I'll show you the back. And so I thought, oh, I want to use this fabric. I'll show it. The inside, I think, is almost the best part. I love that fabric for the inside. So I decided to use this beautiful fabric to make the vest. So I'll talk just briefly about how I put it together. I really wanted a vest that had a collar, and it's a little bit hard to find a pattern for a vest that includes a collar. So I finally found a pattern. This is it's just an old Simplicity pattern. And I am working on creating my own pattern from this. Hopefully it'll be coming out maybe early next year. But this is the one that I used. I've highly modified this to be what I wanted. The one tip that I would give you if you're making making a vest from a pattern that maybe not be exactly what you want, is to mock it up. This is similar to what Lisa was saying about the pots. Don't use your fancy, nice fabric first, or your quilt that you're cutting up to make the pattern. So what I did is since I was this pattern was very fitted, and each section was made out of 2 or 3 pattern pieces. I didn't want that for a quilt vest. I wanted to have a block here and on the back. I didn't want 3 pieces on the back of the vest. I wanted to have 1 piece. So I was combining pattern pieces. So I used a sheet and I cut out pattern pieces from the sheet and basted them together and made a sheet vest and tried it on, tried to see how it fit, modified it, did it again, and then once it fit how I liked, then I took it apart and used these sheet pieces as my pattern pieces. So that's just one tip for creating a garment if you're not sure about the pattern that you're using. When I created the star, this star, I use this Lemoyne star pattern in a lot of, well, several of my quilts. And it's a nice, easy star that goes together. There are no Y seams, there are no HSTs. And so this is, I'll show you inside. You just, you use a diamond. Well, that probably doesn't show too well, but you use a diamond seam, a diamond piece, and it goes together really nice and easy. And I do have a template, if you can see, but a see-through template that that makes the diamonds really easy to cut. It's not necessary, but it just helps. And so I do, there is a bundle that's available on my website that shows all the instructions for making this block in 12-inch and 6-inch sizes. And it includes both sizes of templates, if that's something that you're interested in. But the other thing that I wanted to say about this quilt is I made another version of this vest out of a quilt, just a regular old quilt. And you can just cut up a quilt and use that too. But I thought this was a super fun way to use this fabric. I created the stars, and out of two colors, you can see 2 colors of the fabric, and then this teal mountain foliage print for the background. And I used the same mountain foliage in the pink color for the binding and a different color for the inside. So just out of those 3 colors of the Montgomery Mountain fabric, I think it was a really nice, kind of a subtle quilted look. The star doesn't super, jump out at you, but I just love the look of it with these springtime prints. And so if you have any questions, you can leave them in the messages, but I really enjoyed using these prints, and I love wearing this quilt, this quilted vest, because the fabrics are just so beautiful. So thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. And so you created the pieces, and then you quilted everything, and then you cut it into
Yes.
the pattern pieces. Okay.
Yes, I added fabric onto it to make it big enough to be extra big. I could put the pattern piece on, then I quilted it, then I cut it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so when we put the out of hibernation block up on the screen, I looked at it and I thought, oh my gosh, you could like supersize that and make a 1-block quilt, like a baby quilt, and make it like, 40 inches by 40 inches. And how cool would that be?
That would be fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to our third project feature, which is a Sarah Krock-Landrum. She created the second project in this issue called the Peaks and Petals Topper. Her prairie point trim works perfectly with the Montgomery collection and is a great finishing touch to this adorable project. Thanks for joining us today, Sarah.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, my name is Sarah Krock-Landrum, and I am the owner and pattern designer at Fields of Patchwork. And I was graciously asked to create a pattern for this issue. And at first, Lisa said, well, you need to create something with all 24 5x5-inch charms. And so I got to brainstorming, and prairie points came to mind. And initially, I thought about placing prairie points within a border. And in collaboration with Lisa, she said, well, I think we need to have something a little bit more dramatic. And so we ended up using prairie points as the edging of the quilt for the table topper. And so a little bit about my business is I also love history. So every quilt that I design, I like to incorporate history with it, because even though quilting has evolved so much over time, it's still connected to the past. And so I went down the rabbit hole of kind of researching where prairie points came from. And they actually can be traced all the way back to the mid and late 1800s here in America, primarily out west. So they kind of came about to represent the prairie and the beautiful sunsets that take place out west. And so another reason that they became very popular is because a lot of times you can use fabric scraps for them.
You need small pieces, and it's a wonderful way to add dimension to your quilt. And so it's been used all throughout time. And then in the 1970s, it kind of hit this big revival and it became really popular again. And we still see it today. And so I have 5 different tips that I would like to share with you regarding utilizing prairie points in your quilt, either within this project or another project. So number 1 is your fabric choice. That is so important. You want to use a light or medium weight fabric. And Benartex fabric is perfect for this. A good quilting cotton works really well because you want those nice, crisp edges. If you use a thicker fabric, for example, a fleece, it's going to be softer and puffier and not really give that exact look that we're going for. Okay, so number 1, fabric choice is extremely important. Number 2 is cutting with accuracy. That's a given for a lot of quilting projects, but it is so important that you cut your squares to size. So you can cut, prairie points can come in a variety of sizes. If you do a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square, you would get a very small prairie point, okay? If you did a 3.5 by 3.5 inch square, you would get more of a medium-sized prairie point. And then what we used for this particular pattern is a 5 by 5 inch square. That's for more of a larger, more dramatic prairie point. And like I said, you can use any sizes in between, all right? But cutting that square accurately really makes a difference. So you have fabric choice, you have cutting with accuracy, and third, you have to press. It is so important to get out that iron and to use it for this project. I've taught a couple of classes and sometimes people go, I just don't want to use the iron. Well, you really need to for prairie points, okay? You're going to use it to really accentuate the points. And so the iron is what you want to use. I recommend a dry iron. You can also use fabric starch if you would like, but that is definitely optional, okay? And then number 4, you want to, this becomes how you place the prairie points on your pattern. A lot of times the quilt pattern or pattern that you are using will tell you if there needs to be an overlap of the prairie points or if they all have even spacing. It'll give you those directions. However, if you're being creative and want to do something on your own, you can overlap or keep them separate as much as you would like. The more overlap that they become gives it more of a scalloped look. Whereas if you have them more spaced apart, that gives a more modern feel. Okay. Now, when you are using your prairie points and beginning to attach them to your project, I highly recommend after you lay them all out, you want a base stitch on top of them. So adding a base stitch is a longer stitch. It's just securing them in place so that there's no shifting that happens when you go to actually stitch them onto your quilt. And it's a lot easier to seam rip a basting stitch if you need to move or shift something to get it just the way you want than it is to seam rip a regular seam. So I highly recommend that you baste before you attach a border or the binding on top of your prairie points, okay? So those are the 5 things that are extremely important. Your fabric choice, your cutting with accuracy, number 3, your pressing. You want to make sure you press it well. And number 4, wait, what was number 4? So pressing with accuracy or pressing well, and then you want to lay it out, make sure that it is all the way that you want it to look. And then lastly, basting it on before you add that final stitch. Prairie points really add that 3-dimension. It really gives an added look to any project that you are working on. Do not be intimidated by them. They are so fun to make and they're worth giving them a try for a variety of projects. So I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for having me. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Sarah. So, Sarah, can you show us the quilt again? Because everyone got to see it in the issue, but it's even better in person.
I can do my best.
Oh, that's great. And so you used 24 of the 25, right? In the
Yes,
border?
I did. Yep.
And I'm guessing you sized it so that you could use 6 on a side?
Absolutely. Yep. And like I said, in the pattern, it does talk about how there needs to be about a 1-inch overlay in order to make that happen. And an overlay, I am meaning that, so one side when you have your prairie points, this is where the fold happens, and then one side will be open. And so you will stick a prairie point, the folded edge, with inside of that open edge.
Oh, I
And you'll
see.
overlap them about 1 inch. So in
Okay.
order to get the 6 points on each side, you're going to need to overlap by 1 inch.
Okay, that
Does that make
makes
sense?
way more sense to me now. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today for this episode of the Swatch and Learn. We hope that you enjoyed it, and a special thank you to my co-host Lisa Ruble and to our special guests Sarah and Lisa. So we would love to see what you create with your swatch packs. You can share them in our Facebook group, which is called Create Inspire Delight. And be sure to follow us on social media to see all of our beautiful fabric collections and lots more projects. If you're not yet a subscriber to the Fat Quarterly, please check out the Fat Quarterly page on our website and subscribe. It's a great publication. Long before I even worked with Benartex, I was a subscriber to the Fat Quarterly. So I'm going to give all of our guests and my co-host a quick chance to say goodbye to everybody, and then we'll wrap up today's session. Lisa?
Bye, everyone. Thanks so much for watching, and hope to see you at our next one.
Awesome. And the other Lisa?
Goodbye. Thanks for being here. It was really fun to talk about this and meet with all the rest of you.
And Sarah?
Thanks so much for having me, and have fun making prairie points.
Great. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and I hope you will join us for episode 7, which will be later this summer.